So Sarah is joining us in few seconds. If you don't mind to introduce yourself while we're waiting for her. So.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you
Otherwise,
so
I can
much.
tap dance for you if you like.
Yeah, we can do that as well.
Oh, there we go. Look, that is me up there. Perfect. My name's Juliette Alabaster. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Brisbane Economic Development Agency, or BEDA, because I'm Australian and we like to shorten everything. So BEDA it is. So as the Economic Development Agency, we're about driving sustainable economic growth for the city. So we're really the city's champion. So we're looking to grow our global profile. We're looking to attract visitors, and we're also looking for investment and talent attraction as well.
Hi, my name is Annette. I work for the Stavanger Convention Bureau. So we are on the southwest coast of Norway. So if you haven't been there, contact me and we'll... So what we do is actually we bid for international events, sport and cultural events. We've been, many know us because of the Swatch Major Beach Volleyball Tournament. We've also quite often host the World Cup in speed skating. We've hosted the European Championship in curling. We were the first in the Nordics to host the World Cup in sports climbing. So we are very fortunate to have quite a few good venues that the city was have been investing largely into large arenas. And last year we opened a brand new velodrome for cycling, indoor cycling. And so for the first time, actually, the national team can actually do a national event and championship in Norway at home. So that's good. So yes. So we've been, rather than just attracting events, we've started to now also look into using the events as tool for more societal synergies on behalf of the city and the region. So, yeah, that's us.
And now I'm going to give the ladies the introduction that they really deserve, because the most unusual thing at an international conference has just happened, which is starting early. Because if I check my watch, it is 2 minutes to 4 o'clock, and our panel is due to begin at 4 o'clock. I'm not going to bore you again with my introduction because you have already had it, but I think that you can see that we're in for a very interesting panel discussion, really about new events, about looking forwards, about what we've learned over the past, well, especially the past 3 years, but a lot longer than that. For many of you who I've known for the last 20 years, there is a lot that we have learned to do things better now. And the last 2 years has given us a chance to really reflect and to move on. And there are many, many opportunities so that everyone can get the most out of their events. It's not now only about the classic model where a federation wants to get as many interested cities as possible lined up and who's going to pay the most, because there is a very narrow list of those that will actually generate that sort of setup, that sort of system. And really it's about engaging with the cities, with the stakeholders, and to create a model which is win-win-win. And what we have here with Juliette and with Annette are from two countries, Australia and Norway, that may be located on the other side of the world from each other, and one may be more famous for winter sports, although Stavanger is a great exception to that, as we'll learn from Annette. And Australia is all about the beach. But they do have one common connection, which I hope will become the new norm in many countries, and that is everybody does sport. Not only loves it, not only follows it, but everybody does sport. And it's unusual if you don't. I mean, nobody doesn't do sport in Norway and in Australia, and as a family. It's just part of what you do and who you are in your DNA. So it's a straightforward basis and kind of logical that they're here with us at the MNI Hosts and Federations Summit, because they certainly know what sport is, they know what they can offer, and you know that they know what they're doing. And that's so important when it comes to really activating in their countries, that you're going to have an audience there who get sport and who are interested, and you're not just appealing to a tiny segment of the population, but they love events, they all show up. And it's the stories that I can recall to you about going to major events in both Norway and in Australia. There is just a public waiting for you there who just want to be engaged with events. So now we'll go in alphabetical order. Brisbane, Stavanger. Juliet will give us a bit of an insight into things that they're doing, which I think will excite you equally as we've seen from Montreal, where you can really cover summer and winter events, and the same is very, very true in both of these countries.
We're not so good on the snow sports, but I'm just going to drop this pen because I've got too many things on my lap.
Check out your medals at the game. Pretty good.
Oh, okay. I think my presentation, I sent it through. Is that loaded in there? Just got a couple of quick slides. No? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I don't need the clicker either then. We'll put that down. So I was just going to give you a few quick facts about Brisbane. So we are the capital of Queensland, the state of Queensland. We are the fastest growing capital city in Australia. Our population is 2.6 million. Oh, I dropped my Tim Tam. Yes, I've dropped my props. That's okay. So 2.6 million is our population. 36% of people in Brisbane are born overseas. 28% of people speak a language other than English at home. We have 300 days of sunshine, just like our friends on the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is an hour south of Brisbane, just to give you that context. We're subtropical. We were voted number 10 in the world for most livable cities last year. And average temperature is 17 to 27 degrees Celsius. Yes, you're absolutely right. Brisbane absolutely shares the Australians' love of sport, both on and off the field. From a major events perspective, Brisbane has 3 key objectives. The first is to drive visitation through major events. The second is to raise the city's global profile. And the third is to create a more vibrant and livable city for our residents. So here at MEI, we are looking to talk to you all about opportunities that we can do that will help us achieve those 3 things. In terms of some of the events we've hosted in the past, just to give you a quick idea, I couldn't remember them, so I've got a list here, so let me just talk about a couple of them really quickly. 2017, we held the Rugby League World Cup. 2018, it was the Battle of Brisbane, which was between local Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao, so boxing, and Jeff Horn took out that fight, which was very exciting. UCI Track World Cup in 2019. 2020, we had games for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup cricket. 2022 Oceania Cycling Championships. And then we've got some English Premier League coming in later in the year. We also have the Nitro World Games, which is exciting. That's the first time it's been outside of the USA, so we're looking forward to that. In 2023, Australia and New Zealand are hosting the FIFA World Cup, and Brisbane will have 8 of the matches. 2026, we've got the UCI... Football, yes, so you know. UCI, the BMX World Championships in 2026. In 2027, we've got the Men's Rugby World Cup across Australia, so Brisbane will have games in that. 2029, we've got the Women's Rugby World Cup, and of course, 2032, the Brisbane Olympic and Paralympic Games, which we're super excited about. Touching on that really quickly, it is a different model in Brisbane in 2032. First off, it will be the first carbon positive games. That's very exciting. That's also a journey we'll all have to go on together. The second thing about it is it's hosted across the region, so 18 of the 32 venues are in Brisbane. and then the other 14 are spread across north and south of Brisbane, so within an hour of us. So Gold Coast has 8 events, and the others are north. 84% of the venues exist or will be temporary. So we're only building 3 new venues in Brisbane, and they were already planned to come. And 54% of those events will be within 5 kilometres of the city centre. I'll leave it there.
Sounds pretty good. How many of you were down at Sport Accord in 2019 on the Gold Coast? And a few veterans of the industry. That was the last in-person one that we've had up until now. And so I think those of us who were there are pretty excited about the events that are coming up, Juliet.
In North America, though, before the pandemic.
Before, sure.
Yeah. It was after the Gold Coast.
Yeah, a regional one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yep. And sorry, it was the last, let's say, plenary session, including the General Assemblies in person of all of the international federations. But as I say, this MEI Summit and Sport Accord and the different other events that are taking place, they're just part of the whole mix. And so really that's just underlining that point. But the fact is that you had all international federations there, so many of them have already got an insight into the sporting culture there. The fact is the venues are there, and being a sustainable games. Now, I mean, to come back on the fact that it wasn't really commented on in the previous session, it's not a question of why should you be, it's, well, why shouldn't you run competitions? It's just what you do these days. It has to be absolutely integrated into everything you do. And you will not get a city, you will not get a partner, anybody connected to the event, unless you show very much that you are committed to run a sustainable event. It's part of what you do. They want to see that your engagement with social, corporate responsibility, with sustainability, with the environment, with diversity, that these things all work. So I don't want to preach like Dennis was doing to us all before to herd us together in here, but really I think it's a message that we just need to get through in every panel session, and Brisbane have brought into it, and Stavanger have very much brought into it. Norway is also a world leader when it comes to sustainable and renewable energies. Tell us about it.
Yeah, how can I compete with that speech beautifully? Apart from that, we've been nominated the happiest country in the world several years.
Luttefisk.
Anyway, but it's interesting to see how sports and with for kids, especially youth, not been participating in sport during the pandemic. So actually in Norway, we've seen in our city how the sports have been really impacted of the pandemic. They've seen how mental health issues have risen, especially the last year. And we've had organizers not being able to organize their planned event because they don't have enough people in their clubs anymore. They don't have enough volunteers. So we have a huge campaign these days from the National Federation actually to get the kids back into sports. So there are huge impacts. So we've actually, during the pandemic, we've been busy bees. We've been fortunate from December 2019 that we had developed a national strategy for events, which was all new to Norway. So that was Birgitte, she's participating virtually. The Innovation Norway was leading this work on developing the strategy, and I was fortunate to take part of that. And there were 2 focus areas in that strategy. That was innovation and sustainability. And that, when we later on, after that was finished, when we did our regional event strategy, we were fortunate enough after a large survey that the same focus areas was also in our region. so we could build on the national strategy to develop our own. And actually, rather than just attracting the events to our region, having those two focus points, innovation and sustainability, suddenly we were engaging with partners we'd never partnered up with before, and not just tourism, but other sectors of business were looking at what we were doing. We were becoming relevant. So we are now working on how to develop a strategic council, which includes more partners, the university, the hospital, and others that we've never been cooperating with before, because suddenly we've become relevant. And we've partnered up with the business development team in the city of Stavanger, and also looked at what are their strategic plans and business development. And as I guess in rest of the Europe as well, there's a large lack of IT skilled people. One of the national oil company just said that they were hiring 2,000 people. And they need to get hold of these people, and they are all playing esports. So going into events with the strategic goal of attracting young people, then suddenly we are becoming a tool for the city to use these events for a purpose. And the same, we're also working, there's a huge drone industry in our region that are doing very well, they're growing. They are lacking people. They don't get enough people to, so they can't participate. They really want drone events in our city, but they can't get enough resources to work with us. So we need project managers and others to do that. But they're coming and scanning our the venue, which is the city of Stavanger and the harbor. And suddenly the city is reacting and saying, hey, that's really cool. We need to have, can we get access to those data? We want to use those data to other projects that we're working on. So by having a good strategy with focus areas that are relevant for the city, then suddenly events are used more strategically than ever before. So, yeah.
The new opportunities are clear, but when it actually comes to the federations themselves, one of the big challenges is, of course, financing the events. And the classic model of paying significant rights fees for events, this is in principle, as I mentioned right at the outset, only possibly in range for a very, very few number of major events. But the vast number of events who are represented here, they're looking to finance their events. How are they going to achieve this? And how are they going to put it together? So what would be very helpful to know is, in terms of your respective cities and regions, how you can help engage with the other stakeholders and really work together, collaborate together to help them, if not necessarily with the possibility to actually put straight cash in the bank, but to provide value in kind, to offer accommodation, venues, services, transportation, and basically all the stuff that you spend money on. How does that sound?
Sounds like a perfect world. Look, Brisbane doesn't have the deepest pockets, but we have worked on how we stand out from the crowd in terms of hosting events. So for us, it is all about partnership. Dennis would be happy. And it is about looking at mutually beneficial outcomes. So what do the federations want to get out of the event? What does the city want to get out of it? What does the residents, what do the attendees want to get out of it? And actually my favourite question to ask an event organiser is, what have you always wanted to do that you haven't been able to? And I feel that really opens up a conversation for us to be able to look at how Brisbane might be able to do something a little bit different for you, and gets us thinking about how we can do it. In Australia, we have 3 levels of government. So just touching on your point about getting everyone together and the key stakeholders. One big advantage though for Brisbane is that, I didn't give you this stat before, but I will now, we're a really large local government area. So we actually span 1,376 square kilometres. And just to give you a comparison, the Greater Metropolitan Area of London is 770 square metres. So that's just giving you how big Brisbane is. And what that means is it's one council and one set of rules. So when it comes to event organisers, we often work in a tripartite contract with our state government. So it'll be the city, represented by us at BETA, then the state government, and then the event organiser, so that we've all got skin in the game. And then on large events, we bring together working groups which have the state government, the local council, and then our essential services, so whether that be the fire brigade, the police, emergency service, etc., and we come together for logistics and communication plans. So that's probably the more unglamorous but really important part. On the other side for us, in hosting events, it's not just about the couple of days of competition. We really want to create a pathway to the event. So a quick example for you is the Nitro World Games. And if you don't know what that is, it's urban sports. So it's BMX, FMX, scooter and skateboard. They're the guys and girls that do the crazy, you know, flipping motorcycles and BMXs. And we contracted the event for 2021. That got pushed. We all know why. And it's coming up later this year. But working with the Nitro team, we've looked across what their objectives are, which of course is to grow their audience, to make revenue, broadcast, and actually get more young people into their sports. And our objectives are the ones that I mentioned before. So across the time that we've been working together in the 3 years, we've done a number of different things to promote the event, but also promote the city. So one of them was we did a world record attempt a year out from the event where they did a quadruple, triple backflip. So that's for motorcyclists in a row doing, you know, 3 backflips, and they achieved it, which was great. We filmed an Off the Grid series, which had their athletes doing extreme sports in beautiful locations for Brisbane. So they parachuted out of a plane and landed on a motorbike on one of the sand islands off the coast of Brisbane, which is the 3rd largest sand island in the world, and had an amazing experience. We got their ambassadors into the city and down to our local skate parks and just got out with the kids and had a great time. And so we've been doing all these things in the lead up, and then when the event will happen in Brisbane, you know, we'll be activating the city. And couldn't see my presentation, but we do, as part of just generally light up our city assets. We look at fun ways to celebrate the event being in the city. So whether that's a commissioned artwork on a wall, or it's something fun like 2 big boxing gloves going down the river to celebrate boxing. So there's some of the things that we do.
So the activation part is very important. And Juliet referred to her presentation, and Annette has one as well. What we'll do is we'll make sure that they're going to be on the website. They're going to be on, the follow-up here, so that everybody will be able to get them. And I think as partners of the event, you'll be able to communicate with people directly as well. So, they're short, up-to-date clips, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate those. Stavanger, partnering with the federations, how can you help them to finance and to stage their events?
Well, we work very closely with the city. So what we try to see, we screen more or less the events for the city, so they know that when we bring them to the politicians and the administration, they know that this is something that is in their strategic plans, and something that will do them good. We've tried with federations to, if they say, we're in the bid process, you know, sustainability and synergies, that's the main issue for this bid process. We've tried to say, okay, well then we'll put some of the funding in kind. but that has not been the case. Money still matters. Funding is a baseline that has to be, at least that's what our experience has been. I know some cities are really successful in negotiating to the point like they get lower prices, but for a small city, like a secondary city, it's not that easy to negotiate and say, hey, we're not going to pay that because we have so much other to offer. But we've experienced that you have the finances, and that should be the baseline, and then the sustainability and everything else is on top. So if that was just a challenge out to the federations. But we see that funding from the city, as soon as we became more relevant, we see it's easier for us to get funding for projects that are important to us. So that, let's say the biggest convention area where we host Norway's largest energy conference and fair every 2 years, is a big area of 35,000 square meters of 8 different multi-sport halls, tennis halls. We have 4 ice hockey arenas in a row. So what we did is that we said, during the pandemic, there were so many federations who wanted to come, but they weren't allowed to fly in. So we said, we need to present this digitally. So what we actually did with City, that we said we need to screen and scan all of these venues so that we can present to them by Teams or Zoom or whatever. So our new project, which is still not done, but we've 3D scanned most of this large area. And the hotels, because they are important for gala dinners and functions and meetings. So each of these venues have been 3D screens. You can actually, if you give us a call, we can walk you through, and you can see where are the exits, what are the capacity in the for the seating in the ice rink, what is for the handball arena. You have one side of seating. So that has become a tool, and that was the city paying because they wanted to do this as well. And the same is with the same area, instead of multiple contacts that you needed to have if you did an event for the entire area. Then we were getting funds from the city to do a marketing platform and a web and put all of this together. So that it would be easier for the client to actually come and see what's in this area. Yeah, so that's more locally that you get access to different kind of budgets if you are relevant to the city. Yeah.
From a federation's perspective, I can perhaps bring some additional insight to the table, which is that you also have the opportunity that when the city is open-minded and everybody works together and collaborates in such a way that you're prepared to sit together, and your partners, your federation partners, are actually really excited about the opportunity to go to Stavanger, because this concept on sustainability is exactly what they're looking for. Or maybe not even your partners, but potential partners that they're ready to engage and to step up. So these are some of the ways that if you're going to partner with responsible and engaged cities who don't insist on, as it were, taking over a lot of those rights from you, but doing the stuff together. And when the federations are transparent with the actual costs of staging the event, with what their obligations are, that makes a huge difference. That the cities will say, right, well, we can support that piece. Yes, we are prepared to take over the opening ceremony and to host the guests to your welcoming event, because that's what we do. We're here to do that. So you can already make a tick on that part of your budget. So sometimes you can really work together and add up all of that value in kind, and it comes to a fairly decent chunk of your participation fees. And then what other additions can you look at, as Juliette was referring to? Well, how about running community events around your main competition events? And those, of course, generate entry fees. And, well, those entry fees are going to really bring in a substantial amount of revenues when you have mass participation events like cycling, like roller skiing, and like the other running and cycling and other chess, yep, and stuff that can also be done virtually with the major final taking place within a break at your competition. So I know the IOC uses the expression a lot, and I think it's a fantastic one, but co-creation for that event gives you many, many opportunities as well. Now we're going to just turn the tables a little bit. Risks. Obviously, we've heard from Juliet that Brisbane doesn't have problems with its event insurance, because when they're doing stuff that people are jumping out of planes, using parachutes that hopefully open, and they're doing all of the adventure sports. As I can tell you from snowboard freestyle and some of the alpine skiing events, you do close your eyes fairly often and tell the insurance brokers, it's okay, the statistics aren't too bad this year. Yeah, so you obviously know what you're doing in that respect. But look, there are risks on both sides. What do you see that the biggest challenges are for the cities in being much more engaged now in the actual staging of the events, compared to just saying, event organisers, we're hosting you, get on with it?
Yeah, I think from a city's perspective, a risk or a challenge or something to look out for is if you only value an event from an economic impact perspective, because you may not get the most vibrant calendar of events for your city. So we've taken, I guess, a more a broader approach to how we assess events. And of course, economics are important. We need ROI at the end of the day, but we also look at that global profile. So broadcast is important for us and what we can achieve there. The social, media reach of the federations is great too. We look at, as I mentioned before, how it will add to the vibrancy and livability of our city. We look at opportunities for people to get involved, like the local community, whether that's volunteering or actually participating. So you mentioned co-creation before, and I'll quickly touch on an example, which is the Brisbane Cycling Festival. So what we did there, we recognised that cycling would be perfect in Brisbane. So we worked with our state government and us as the city to create the Brisbane Cycling Festival. So basically that's an umbrella festival, and then we plug in annual content that's homegrown. So we have an elite race, which is UCI Grand Fondo, and then we have mass participation opportunities for locals, so they can do a short ride with their family, or they can do, I think, up to, Laurel's in the background. How long is the longest distance, Laurel? Okay, 42K is great. Lucky Laurel's here. And then across the festival, so we always have those annual events that we've grown, and then we plug in UCI content as well, or other content to then bring in the elite aspect to that event. So the city's invested. We've created that umbrella, and then what I think is really important for a city is to look at how can you use your city and your assets to create a unique experience for the event that has obviously been run in many other countries, and the athletes and often attendees have been before. So what will make you stand out? So I think that's a way for you to look at it. And I guess with the cycling festival, what it means for those athletes who do UCI events around the world is that they get a quite different experience. They're alongside these other events. It creates the festival atmosphere. We love it because people stay longer and they see more and have a greater experience. So I guess that would be one for me, is making sure you don't just value it on economics. And really quickly, the second is what I mentioned before, cutting down on the red tape.
And I can tell you that Australia know how to cut down red tape. I think there's still a bit of work to be done in Norway in that respect. Dear Annette, but you can take that message back home to you. But I think it's getting there. The fact now that the commercial organisations are getting involved, Now, also, we didn't bring it up in the communication session before, but I think it's relevant to bring it back here, which is the fact is the athletes don't want to just be passive participants anymore and just compete. They really want to engage, and this is their platform. This is their moment to shine, and it's good for them. And it's good for your event when you see how many followers that they have compared to institutions, federations. You can't compare it. So take care of them, use them.
And I can add to that because at the moment, as we speak, we are hosting the Norway Chess, which is one of the strongest super tournaments in chess, where Magnus Carlsen is participating every year. So they're gathering the 10 strongest players in the world and playing, and what that has done for the chess playing in Norway. I mean, they organize school tournaments, and the kids are showing up, and they, I mean, the fans around Magnus Carlsen, what he as one person has done for the sport of chess is just amazing, and what it has developed to. From being something that was played and there was hardly any audience, I mean, people that used to have no interest in chess are now looking at 4 or even 5 to 6 hours of chess on TV while they're cooking dinner. And it's like, who would imagine? And that is just because there are some really smart people, probably some of you guys here as well, who has developed software to use for media and for TV to actually show this in an understandable manner to the rest of us. So chess has become really, really interesting for everyone. And also that same for media when it comes to Ironman. We are hosting Ironman in July. It's back to Norway for the first time in a few years. And that has just been more, rather than the media coverage, it's more of getting people back into sports. And then, so putting triathlon to a normal level, not just the extreme sport athletes, just for everyone. They have the teams so that you can have one running, one cycling, and one swimming. So there's a large focus on joining in for your first Ironman as a team, so that you can have your first experience, and then maybe next time you would train more and do more sports, and then you can do your own Ironman for the first time. So, yeah.
We have got 5 minutes longer of this session, and as I said right at the outset, connect with us on LinkedIn. It's the most fantastic networking platform. I couldn't believe it since I joined in November 2020. I had 6,500 connections within 12 months. And now finally meeting so many virtual connections in person has been absolutely terrific. So that's been a lot of fun. So please do that. And we're all here until Thursday. We're all here until Thursday afternoon. So we can also have discussions, and hope you will engage during the networking sessions and whenever you get a chance. But if anyone's got a question to wrap up now that will really be of interest to everyone in the room, you're very welcome to pose it. Otherwise, thanks everybody for attending. Thanks for your attention. And we've got a few. That's nice. Great.
A question particularly as it relates to your involvement or your organisation's involvement in providing funding. How do you make sure that the money that's being put in is being used effectively, that things are under control, it's going to happen as you are? Because there's two sides to it. One is the event needs to happen, but at the same time, you've also got a series of objectives out of the event that you want to achieve as well, and you may not get the right focus one way or the other.
Are we still going alphabetically? Do you want me to answer? Okay. Look, it's just part of our contracting process. So we are driven traditionally, but again, we're flexible, on visitation targets. So usually we have, most of the money will be upfront, but there will be a performance payment based on visitation. And we just negotiate what that looks like. And nope. Sorry if that attendees tickets. But we look at out of region. It'll be out of region ticket holders as a percentage of overarching. It depends on the event, obviously. Yeah, as well. Sorry.
No. Well, for Stavanger, we see that they don't have a requirement list in per se, but what they do is that if this is going to be an annual event, if you don't perform, you're not going to get the funding the next year. So it's going to be payback time if you don't deliver what you promised. And we see that quite often when when they're selling us the event, quite often the audience numbers and the participation numbers are very, very high. So we saw like, okay, this is not, there's no chance that that's going to happen in Norway. So we have to put that down. I mean, we can't compare ourselves with, I mean, we're a city of, the region has 300,000 people. It's not like we're going to attract 6 million. I mean, it's just, we have to be honest about what we are. We are an international, global city because of the energy sector. And we have easy access, but we have 5,000 rooms, hotel rooms. So it's, and quite often, if we have, because of the energy sector, many of those rooms are already filled. So if we're going to have a large event, we know that that's going to be put aside for this. So the value creation, the economic value creation is more on top. So we have to be very, honest about what we can create of added value. Yeah.
The motto is, take your tent. Great.
Not so.
We don't want to. No, that's not strictly true, but it just shows that there, have to be different expectations. If you're going to run an event in London or you're going to run an event in Stavanger, you have to have a completely different objective. Please.
Yes, this is for Juliet. Has Brisbane established a budget for 2032, and how do they make sure that it doesn't double or triple in the next 10 years?
I'd love to be able to answer that, but BETA it's probably faster to say what we aren't involved with in the Olympics, and we're not involved in the infrastructure, and we're not involved in the running. So our job is really around leveraging. So look, we've got the longest lead time into an Olympics and Paralympics than any other city, so that's really exciting. They have set up OCOG. They've had 2 meetings. The last was, I think, just last week. So they're in pretty early planning. They are still debating between federal, state and local government on who's paying for what. But in general, Southeast Queensland, taking in the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, already had what we call a city deal with the federal government in play. And so the Olympics has helped push that forward. So there was already money committed mainly on public transport infrastructure. So that connectivity will be pushed forward by the Olympics. And then, as I mentioned, it's only 3 new venues for Brisbane, but they were already planned.
Sounds good. I think we had a final question from you, or was that already answered?
Almost.
We're all good.
Yeah. I'm just curious to know, because based on your question, I'm totally, I have so many questions, actually. But we all know that, we've got like big events, but I think it could be relevant to build like a festival around it, because it attracts more eyeballs to the event and new targets, I would say. So we all know that, creating some event is also creating some content, not only for, national broadcast, but also, for social media and live broadcast as well. So when you look at to welcome some events, are you looking also at, the promotion, the promotional side of welcoming some types of event, besides the fact that, events has to generate some room nights and drive some economic impact and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, absolutely. We host the a Tour of Norway, the cycling event, and previously used to host the Tour de Fjords. So, and actually thanks to that as an annual event, we also attracted the Autoroute Velon came there for one of their events as well. So, and that is purely, I mean, when you see the TV images of these cyclists along the Norwegian fjords, steep mountainsides, and the coastal area with the beaches and the agricultural land, I mean, that's priceless. So, of course, that's a big reason why the municipalities are saying, okay, this is something. But it's also a matter of the organizer. He is a person, and his team, they have built up a big deal of trust that they are actually delivering a good quality event. And they're doing a kids event where they are cycling. So they do all of these things around the event as well, as you were pointing out, yeah.
Yeah, because when you looked at the Montreal video, when you saw like the skateboarding and the Olympic Stadium, it's our event, and it's basically the same thing as Nitro does, and it's just showcasing the destination so well,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
you know, and the Olympic Stadium, the venue, and other kind of, you know, benefits and.
But it's very hard. We used to, before everyone came, you know, this is such a value in hours of TV and this, and the numbers are so high that the politicians don't really, it's impossible for them to grasp. They have to look down into concrete numbers of, okay, this will give 1,000 people 5 days in your destination. That's something that they can understand. But if you say like 2 billion of value in marketing, there's like, okay, well, yeah, you know, and it depends on how it's measured. It's so different from, so we've stopped doing that. We would just say like a couple of hours of TV time, and then we go down to the financials, yeah.
So we're going to wrap up now, and actually I'd like to conclude with a small apology that we didn't quite manage to hit the targets when it comes to gender diversity in this panel, but hopefully we delivered a panel which has been engaging, has been interesting, and yeah, we're looking forward to connecting with you throughout the next 3 days. And thanks everybody, enjoy the rest of the summit.
Come and see me, I've got Tim Tams.